Okay, so today our lesson is on Python. I'm just gonna go through an introduction, learning the basic syntax, variable types, basic data types, and understanding some of the data structures and stuff like that. So in Python, like all programming languages, we will manipulate various types of data. So numbers, lists, stuff like that. And if you want to understand how to manipulate the data, so when you're writing your programs, you need to understand the type of the data, because typically if you're comparing things, adding things, whatever, the data needs to be of similar types. So oops, let's do this. So we can start off with learning different types of what is it called, of data. Okay, so we are going to see primitive types. So similar to what you guys saw yesterday in the JavaScript. So we'll kind of see parallels in there in the JavaScript intro. Primitive types and non-primitive. All right, okay. First of all, do we have any questions before we start? No, we're good to go? Okay, so one of our primitive data type is going to be a number. So that's pretty basic. What do we mean by numbers? Let me add a new Python file. Okay, so first we can create a variable. So let's say small number. Oops. And we will assign it to a number literal. So one thing that is typically different in Python is you want to write in what they call snake case. So it's words separated by an underscore versus camel case, which is like this, a small number, which is what we typically use in JavaScript. This is just like, it became an industry standard somehow. So that's one thing. So unlike JavaScript, we don't actually need any let or define or constant keyword to define a variable. You can just put your variable and then what it equals to. So this can be a string, this can be literally whatever it is. And so let's just say it's still 4. And then to see something on the terminal, so when you're, instead of doing a console log, we do print. So we can print a small number, and let's try to run it. Look at my terminal. Internals and notes. W1D3. Okay, so Python 3. If you set your aliases, you don't need to do Python 3, you just do Python. But class. Okay, so this just prints out your variable. If you want to know what the type of your variable is, so if you have something that you're pulling in from somewhere and you don't know at all what it is, so you just write type. And if I'm running it again, it'll say that it's an int. So let's see. So yeah, so numbers, like anything, you can just manipulate with the normal operators. So like plus, minus, multiply by, divided by, all that stuff. So one thing is, I'm just gonna call this x equals 5. If you want to check small number equals x, so we don't have the 3 equal signs in Python, because JavaScript automatically, like we said yesterday, like type corrects, and if it's a string, and there's a number in that string, it'll try to make it as a number or vice versa. So yeah, just the 2 equals. And if you want not equals, it's just all right, so yeah, this is just pretty simple stuff in the beginning. For strings, so string, you can define a string with single quotes. You can also define a string with double quotes, and it doesn't matter, you can use them interchangeably as long as obviously the opening and the closing one are the same. So that is also similar to JavaScript. And if I create another string, print. Also, if you guys have questions, please raise your hand. I might not be checking the chat too much. So a string, you can do a string plus another string. And let's see what happens. So it concatenates them. It just glues them together. Yeah, Zach.
Do you have to exit a string in the same way, or is there like a convention? I feel like I don't know if I'm just making this up, but like, is there a standard convention for like what quotes you open with? Because I feel like you don't have to like exit this. If you wanted to put quotes inside of quotes in Python, it's different than JavaScript, right?
Yeah, so if I wanted to put like an apostrophe, and I'm using, so if I'm putting an apostrophe in this one, it's not a big deal. If I'm putting an apostrophe here, it's obviously creating an issue. So you just put another one. And if I run it, yeah, there we go. So it's just a regular apostrophe. So yeah, so if I'm doing the double quotes here, if I add another one, it should, or not, hold on. I think backslash. Yeah, there we go. So for double quotes, you have to put backslash. For single quotes, you just put you put 2 of them. Good. Any other questions?
I had a question on line 4. You can't just do the single quotes, and then if you wanted to, for whatever reason, use a double quote on the inside, would that negate the slash if you started them with a single quote?
So for this one, you said?
Yeah.
So if we started this with a single quote and ended with a single quote, yeah, if we put the double quote here, it'll just show up because this string is held together by single quotes, so there's no interference. But yeah, did that answer your question, or was there more to that?
Yeah, I was looking at it and I thought the reason why we had to use the backslash was because we started line 4, the string in line 4 with double quotes. But if we didn't have, I don't know, it's splitting hairs at that point.
So for here, because we have the double quotes, if you want to insert a double quote in here, it will be, backslash. So backslash will allow you to put an actual quote character, or like a double quote character. In single quotes, you just have to put two of them right after each other.
Okay.
In your example, the single quote isn't showing up. Do you just need to run it again?
Oh, this one is not, okay. So it might be both. Okay, I think it is / for both of them. Never mind, I've been corrected. Thank you. So if, if the quote, or if that quote character is the same as the outside ones, then you have to just put a backslash. Is it a back or forward? I think this one's back. I guess it depends on which language. But yeah. Any more questions about this? So let me just show the type. So if we do type string, oops. There we go. I will just show string. Okay, so another thing about string is formatting. So you can also format strings in this way. So if we have a print statement, you put an F and then double quotes, and then you can say something, 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 and then I want to add my variables, my string variables. So you just put them in curly braces in here. So a underscore string, and then it'll, there we go. It added the last one. Or it added this first one. Let's see what else I can think of. I think if you do, I think this works. Let me check. No, it does not. Yeah, I think there's, oh, that might be in Java. Never mind.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you do this and then you put a comma and then variables, it will just append those variables. So you see here, if I remove the space. Okay, cool. So if you put things with like a string, comma, string inside the print, it will automatically add a space between them. So if I wanted to do it here, let's say, instead of the plus, so plus concatenates them, it literally just glues them together. And then if you put a comma, it will add a space in between. What else can I show? And so you can actually access singular, like you can access individual characters just as you're accessing an array. So in a string, you can say a string at 0, it should give us H. So let's see what it does. It did. So that's pretty cool. If you do -1, it should give you the last character, which was also an H, that example. Let's put a Z there. There we go. Yeah, Kenneth.
So since you're accessing that string at a certain index, can we treat these like we would an array and iterate through them?
Yeah, exactly. And I can show you, we'll show an example of that when we're doing the loops. Yeah, Gabo.
Hey, any reason we would do the F formatting thing instead of the like %F, S, and %D? Have you seen those?
Yeah,
There a benefit or reason you might, this is just an example that I pulled where that it would do like the same thing instead of the F. I mean, why would you use one over the other? And if it's not important, then we
So
can move on.
the percent F percent D stuff, I guess let me try seeing this. Percent. I didn't actually know that it worked here. I think, oh, I should probably remove the F, right? So percent D, and then it's probably gonna wait for a decimal, so no. I think, is this a
And-
Python thing? I don't.
It
I
is.
think it's in different languages.
So after your quote is done, then you
Mhm.
put the percent sign with the variable you're trying to send through. So it's like the way to include, so that would be if you put, instead of number 2, if you had a underscore string and that was percent S, then it would work. It's a way to incorporate and that would have to be percent S, and then it
Yeah,
would work.
because it's a string. Okay. So this is
And then a
string or
space.
like this.
No comma,
No
and
comma.
then percent before the variable, and then a space. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if space matters or not.
Yeah, it worked. Okay.
But it seems like, I guess I don't know why. I was taught that in one of the like pre-work things I was going through, and I've never
Okay.
seen the F thing before, so I was just curious.
Yeah, well, for this one, you have to specify each one, so it could get, like, if you're adding multiple, then you have to keep track of like, okay, this is the first one, the next one is the one after. Versus if you just put the F here, you don't have to deal with any of that, and you can just put it in line. It's way easier to read that way. So if you're typing, or if you're like writing code and stuff like that, then it's easier to see what this string is supposed to be, pretty much.
Okay, thank
Versus-
you, and I totally agree with you too. I was confused why that's the way I learned. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is much better in my opinion, but students
Yeah.
will give just an explanation, so thank you.
of course.
But you can also use that to specify how many decimal points you want after. So like if it's a float and you want, you know, three decimal points after
Yeah.
the number, you can use that. And so that's what I've seen.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, the float stuff is that would help there. Yeah, I agree. Who else has a question? Louis?
Yeah, I got a question. What's the purpose of just putting the F there? I don't understand why you're putting an F before the commas.
Putting an F before the string just lets Python know that we want to format the string. It's just how the syntax works, because if we put the F inside, it's just gonna treat it as a regular character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right. If I put the F here, it's just gonna be a string, and then this is probably not gonna work. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Gobble. Other question? Oh, you just put, okay. All right, any other questions?
Since we're talking about variables, I'm not sure if you'll get to it or not, but would you be able to hit on like variable reassignment and like how that works? Or
Yeah, so variable reassignment, you just reassign it. So a string equals 4. Oops. Oh, okay. So the issue was because I'm trying to access it like an array, which it's not a string, so I can't do that. It's only a number. Yeah. So now it's an int, and you can put so this also doesn't have to be a string. Inside your formatted string, you can insert any type of variable you would want.
okay. And then are there any other flags that go hand in hand with the F, like the format?
There might be Python.
Try not to get too far in the weeds on it. I just, for some reason, remember seeing something about maybe if you're using integers, you might have to use something else.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, here's F. No, as long as you put them inside the curly braces, it seems like, yeah. Also, this is a good website, so I'll keep it up and I'll post it to the resources.
Awesome.
Louis, do you have another question?
Yeah, I got a question. So you know how in JavaScript we use let and const to define the variable and stuff?
Mhm.
I know how const you can't change it.
Mhm.
Is there a way you can do that as well here?
Not that I
Like if I,
know.
so right here, this is you could change, you can reassign anything you want. There's no like.
Yeah, so if I look up Python constant variable, there is a constant, but you have to, it's like an external library, pretty much. So there, yeah, built into Python, there are no, there's no like constant and like specified variable types.
Okay.
So it's just kind of like it's like a bucket with a name, and you can put anything in that bucket, and you can move it, change it, do whatever you want.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions about strings? Joe, yeah.
Can you give an example of using the dot format method instead of just putting the F before the parentheses?
Is it
Yeah, like that.
format? Let's see. Substitutions are identified by braces. Okay. I haven't used it too much. I know I used it when I was doing something with oh, that's okay. So this is the one that I was trying to do earlier. Thank you, Brian. So you specify all your variables by putting curly braces, and then you number them. So they start from 0, and then in whatever order they are inside your format function, they will appear here. So let's call this number, and then so I want a string in the beginning and then number. So there we go. So shows that this is my string. Yeah. So this is one way. I'm gonna actually keep all the other ways so they can stay in the notes for you guys. Okay. Okay. Was that okay, or did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? All right. So the last primitive type is a Boolean, and you guys know what that is. It's a true or false. The only difference in Python is that the true and false are capital. So true, false, you use it the same way. Something is true or false. You can assign it to a variable. So Boolean equals true. And let's print out the type of it. Okay, class bool. Yeah, any questions on those? So we have numbers, we had strings, and we have booleans. Okay, I think I covered, yeah, these are all the primitive types. So now to the non-primitive types. Our first one is going to be a list. So it's roughly equivalent to the JavaScript array, but it's a little more flexible. So I have an example over here, so I'm just going to copy this over. And I'm just gonna, also comments are with a hashtag here, not the /. Okay, so lists. So let's say I have this list of berries, which is not correct at all. So if we print type of berries, we're going to get a list. I'm just going to comment these out real quick. Okay. So yeah, we can print, like I was showing you guys earlier with printing the string. If we do at -1, it's going to give us the last index. If we do same thing, berries at, let's say 3, it will give us the third index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, eggplant. Something that I really like about this, so print berries, let's say you want these 3. So you're able to say, so 1 through 3. So 1:3 will give you these 3, or it should at least. It did not. It gave tomato and cucumber. So, oh, it's not inclusive of the third one. So I put up to 4, and then I'll get the 3. Okay, so it starts from this one up until and before the 4th index. So index 1, index 2, index 3, and then it stops.
So I got a quick question real quick. In JavaScript, grape will be considered a 4. So in Python, the first will be number 1, or would it be considered 0 as well? Like the
First
position.
is going to be 0. Yeah. I think all across, like across all languages, your first index will be a 0. That's just a general programming thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. So let's say we want to start. Oops, I don't know what I'm typing. So berries out. Let's say I want to slice. So this is called a slice. So you're able to slice the array and get a smaller portion of the array. So let's say I want to slice from the start to index 3. I just put a colon and then I put 3. Oops. And then if I run, it will give me first, second, or yeah, so 0, 1, and 2. So like I said, it's right before, it's not inclusive of the last index. And same way, if I want to do the last few. Let's say I want to do from the second index to the end. So you put the colon at the end. So it starts at cucumber, and then it goes all the way until pumpkin. Any question on those?
Will you discuss doing like appending and doing all that stuff to the list?
I actually don't think it's mentioned today. Let me see. There's built-in methods. Okay, yeah, we can do it right now.
Oh, I didn't know if while you were on this, since if you wanted to show the way to do the reverse, like reverse the list with the with that, just
Yeah, how do we do that?
you just put you make the same thing, you put the 2 colons and a -1 at the end.
So colon and then -1.
No, 2 colons.
2 colons and then -1.
Yes.
Let's print that. Oops. There we go. It has reversed our list. If you want to append to our list, so the nice thing about IDEs is that they have autocomplete stuff. So if you're using a certain data type that has built-in functions, you can just press dot. Also, if it doesn't show up, I think you can do like, no, that's not right. Control, no, I don't know. The dot usually works. So dot, and then you can see all the functions that you're able to use. So we have append, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, all that stuff. So if I want to add one, we append, let's say, well, you want to append a 5. See if that works. Oh, we didn't. So print, there it is. So it appended a 5 to the end. Let's say what do we want to do? Varies dot. So extend is if you have an existing list. So we have berries, and then we want to kind of extend it with another list. So this won't take singular items, it will take a list. So let's say 3 and then strawberries as a string. And of course we didn't print it. There we go. So it appended the 3 and then the strawberry onto it. If we want to remove one, so berries, we can pop. So pop is similar to JavaScript. It will remove the last one. So popped equals that, and then we can, oops, print out popped. So it removes strawberry for us. And then if we printed out the entire list, then we see that it was removed. For pop, you can also pop a certain index. So let's, oops. So let's say I want to remove grape or tomato. Is tomato berry? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Let's just remove index 1. We do that. And we didn't, but that'll be a theme. Okay. There we go. So we have removed tomato. Let's see the difference between popped and removed. So removed equals remove and remove the first occurrence of the value. So this for pop, you can add an index. Forgot that was not okay. And for this one, we want to remove a value. So let's say I want to remove watermelon. I'm gonna print remove because I'm not sure if it actually returns the removed item. Pop does. So pop removes it from whatever index it is in, and then it returns it. And then yeah, so let's see what this does. Okay, so removes item at index and returns it. Remove simply removes item with specified value. Okay. Any questions about these? I know I kind of moved quickly through them, but your biggest help when you're trying to figure out something about a language is kind of looking through these, like I said. So if I wanted to insert, and I don't know how this works, it usually tells you inserts object before index. So you pretty much have to give it an index and an object that you can insert into it. So let's say in index 2, I want to insert hello for some reason. So let's remove this and then we copy or doesn't matter. So we'll just see hello pop up. There we go. Index 2. Any questions? No? Is this kind of making sense? Yeah.
Noticing a lot less parentheses around things.
Sorry?
Seems a bit cleaner. Oh, I just said it, a lot less parentheses, a lot less fluff, I guess, with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I can keep these commented out just so. And all right, does anyone want to see anything with lists? Yeah, the syntax is pretty simple, like a little more simpler than JavaScript. I agree with that. All right, so we went over lists. Next is tuples. So a tuple is similar to a list. It's similar to a list, but it's defined with tuple one equals it's defined with parentheses instead of square brackets. So a list you have square brackets, you have your items with commas. For tuples, it is it's just a parenthesis, and then let's just take this example up here. Oops. While I do that, so unlike a list, tuples are immutable. It can't, that means it's not able to be mutated. You can't add, remove, modify any of the items in the tuple. You should use the tuple if you want to make sure that the items in your list never change. For example, you would use it if you're storing like this, the 7 days of the week, because there's no reason for that to ever change. You might use it to store like geographical coordinates, so like longitude, latitude, in a tuple, because they're like the two numbers work together to refer to one thing, one specific place. So you don't really need to change the pairs. You just create like a new coordinate pair. So I haven't seen this too much in regular application. So if I was trying to say, if I was trying to change it somehow, equals something, this will not work. There we go. So tuple object does not support item assignment. Also, since we saw this example, I don't think I showed that example here. So we showed the like append, extend, remove, there's a replace, all of that stuff. But with a list, you should be able to also say berries at 0 equals okay. And then berries.
Zaina, can you spend another moment talking about, you said these should be, I think, static, for static information. So what if you wanted to include Sunday full spelling, and then SUN for the abbreviation, and day 1 of the week? Or what if you wanted to give the coordinates for the Eiffel Tower and the Washington Monument? Would the Eiffel Tower be one tuple? And do you use key value pairs in there?
So inside the tuple, you could have a dictionary, which we will go over right after this. So dictionary, like the JavaScript object, you can have multiple pieces of information. So you can have that in a tuple. You'd still have like nested information and stuff like that. But you just can't change it. So it doesn't have to be just a list of strings. It can be a list of anything. Yeah.
So could you extend that? So can you extend that there for Sunday and Monday? So show me what Sunday full spelling, Sunday abbreviated spelling, and Sunday day of the week would look like there.
Okay. I guess this will show an example of dictionaries. So so let's say Sunday, and then we have
full spelling, would that be called?
So this will be, so full spelling, and then this will be Sunday, and then you add a comma.
Okay.
You have
and then abbreviated spelling, colon, SUN, and day of the week, colon. Okay, I get it. Okay.
Exactly. So
Okay.
that's, So that's what a dictionary is, and it is my personal favorite data structure in Python. I use it for most things.
So additionally, you have you're using spaces between if you go back down to that list there, if you would.
I'm just gonna.
Okay, sorry. Yep.
Yeah. I was just moving this down so I can pull this after.
So you've done Sunday in quotes, comma, space, Monday, comma, space, Tuesday.
Oh, you
Is the
don't need
space,
this.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there a convention that's hoped for?
I don't think so. I think this is more of a stylistic choice. It's sometimes easier to read like that. Some people don't like extra spaces in their code, so they make it more condensed. So yeah, that's a personal choice. Any other questions? All right. So I just wanted to demonstrate this one, the high, which it worked, but I had the error message. So this was actually I've been this before. Okay, so we made a lot of changes in between. Okay, so this is before and this is the after, these two lines. And we see that we were able to replace that first index or the 0th index just by doing this. So it's pretty cool. Someone was asking, or Kenneth, you were asking, Python dictionary is equal to JavaScript object. JavaScript like most things in JavaScript are objects, so not really, but yeah, a dictionary you can use as like the traditional object of, like, you have key value pairs. That's what a dictionary is. So you have key and then colon some value, and this is what a dictionary is. Oops. Which actually takes us into our next section. Dictionary. There we go. And I have to assign it my dictionary equals, and then this is something, some people are very particular about indentation. I'm not really, but sometimes I am. I don't know. Okay, but yeah, so this is the general definition of a dictionary. Same thing, it's like a variable holds the actual dictionary. You have curly braces, and inside these curly braces, you have key value pairs separated by a colon. And if you want to add another key value pair, you just put a comma, and then you can put key 2, and then colon value 2.
So Xana, sorry, I had another question about the tuples thing then. So you said that for static information, if you're going to include the coordinates for the Eiffel Tower and various landmarks in the world, are those, would that be a national, that'd be a global tuples, excuse me, a global coordinates tuple, or would it be a tuple of just the Eiffel Tower and its coordinates?
It's up to you. It's up to your application. So it depends on how you want to design your program. These are, yeah, programming is not as rigid as we think it is. So it's what would fit better with your algorithm, how it just makes it like however much okay, I can't talk today. Write your programs and you structure your data in your programs in a way that makes it easier for you to manipulate it, to run through your data, to do whatever you want to it. So yeah, either of those could work.
So what's the difference between one tuple of many things
Mhm.
or many tuples of one thing? And how do you make a decision about which of those structures to use? And then, so maybe using that example as global landmarks.
Yeah.
What would you do there? What were your thoughts?
That will come down to like a design choice. It's there's no right answer for that one. It's whatever fits better. I guess having a global thing that could be iterated through could be easy. I honestly don't know. I would personally do it in a dictionary because you can easily look through dictionaries based on the keys, and then you can have a dictionary within a dictionary. So I'll go over that in a bit. But
So, but the earlier you described the benefit of tuples as being
yes.
things that are static and unchanging.
Yeah.
The location of the Eiffel Tower isn't going to change.
Yeah. So
And
the
I get it.
location itself, yeah. So the location itself you can have as tuple, and you can have it within another tuple. I don't know. Yeah. So it's based on the application of the thing. That's my best answer. Did that kind of, I know it didn't really answer your question, but
Yeah, I mean, I get that it's variable,
yeah.
and maybe it goes into what are the benefits of a tuple in use over a list or
Mhm.
dictionary.
Yeah. I would recommend kind of looking at online like Stack Overflow like discussions, or just actually any like Reddit stuff like that. There's probably a lot of people who have feelings about tuples and how to use them. I personally have never seen them in the wild. So yeah. Not sure. I can't speak for the industry pretty much at the moment. Any other questions? Let's see.
I had one follow-up for
Mhm.
global, since we're not defining these variables or objects, or we're not defining them, how do we know when they're global and when they're not global then?
So the scope, so if they are outside of, so if we have a function, we haven't gone over yet, but oops. And we have a variable x equals 4, and we have a variable x equals 3 here. We do and x, this actually should give us, here, let's print it before. I guess we can print it after else. I'm not following it anywhere. Okay, so. All right, so I have to define my function before I actually call it. Let's say I do that. Local variable x is referenced before assignment. So anything in here, it does not know about anything outside of the function unless you send it in. So pretty sure that means that there are no global variables unless you set it specifically to be global. Said it should work. So let's see what it does. So it prints fantastic. So it pretty much, if it's global, you can access it within the global scope. So this outside scope, outside of this function, is a global scope for this page. So when it's going into here, it's assigning X to fantastic, and that's what it's printing out first. But that doesn't mean that it changes this global X. So when you go down and you print it afterwards, it still says awesome. So this is how global variables work. They don't really work globally within other functions.
If you want to use a
there
global
is a
variable, you have
global-
to say global.
Yeah, you have to specify that it's a global variable. And then, yeah, I'll put this to you guys. Oops. There you go. Okay. Any other questions? No. All right. Okay, so dictionary is our next so our next non-permitive data type. And a dictionary is kind of like an object in Python, even though, so in Python, dictionaries are more complex than than JavaScript objects. And this is used to, like I said, store pairs of data with, there's like where you have a key and then you have a value. And unlike in JavaScript, where you don't have to have quote marks to define certain like the keys and stuff like that, here you do. You just have to make sure that it's a string. Any questions about this so far? And I'll show an example. Okay. So let's say we have someone named Jeff. And we're going to store some information on this person. So we have name. That's going to be Jeff. We can also just say this is a user, just any user. So name is that. We want to store age. Say 40. And then job. This person is, I don't know, a dev. Okay. So if we wanna, yeah, Kevin.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I was just, so in JavaScript, when we do key value pairs like that, it's best practice not to have the key be a string. Is that the opposite in Python where we want the key to be a string?
I don't think it's best practice. I think it's just you can.
Okay.
So the only thing that we wanted to make sure you know is that here you have to make it a string. Over there you can keep it as a just like a literal and then or not. But here you have to have it as a string.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so let's see what happens when I print out. Let me. Let's get rid of these. All right. Okay, so when I print out user, it just gives me the dictionary that I defined. If I want to print out a certain, like the user's name, so let's say I have a list of these dictionaries, and they have just a bunch of users, and what I want in this program is to access this person's name or every person's name. I just write users and then square brackets at name, and this will give me just the name of the person, which is very cool. I think this way of accessing information is very useful in a lot of cases. So let's say I have this list of people. So we have 3 people here. And so this is a list, right? And within this list, each item is a dictionary. So if I want to print, let's say, Bob's information or Bob's age, let's say, first I'll access it. I'll access the people list, and then I'm gonna say at the first index. So I want this index here, and then another square bracket to access this specific key. So I'll just say age, and this should give me 31. There we go. So that's how you can access multiple nested things. Any questions on this? Okay. So this is, yeah, this is how you can access them. Let's say I wanted to append a new thing to this user. Okay. So I can say user, square brackets. So we have name, age, and job defined, but let's say I want to add, I don't know, address. So I can just say user address equals whatever this person's address. Address 1, 2, 3, whatever. And so I print just user. Okay, let's move this example under this one. See what we get. Name P is not defined. Oh, just made a error. Okay. There we go. So now our dictionary has added a new key value pair, which is this one, that person's address. And if I wanted to append a new user here, or I can actually just change one of these dictionaries. So I can say people at 0. So this is gonna be Alice's, and then address equals address, and then I can, yeah, gobble.
When you did the user, when you added the user address, not just now, but the first time up there, did that give every dictionary in that list that address?
So for the first one, I only added it to the single dictionary. So
okay. Oh,
yeah,
because you're using user, not people.
exactly.
I got some confusion. Okay, I just got confused. My apologies.
No worries, no worries. So I did add it to the people here, but I had to specify this first person. If I wanted to add this to everyone, I would have to do a loop.
You have to iterate through them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we'll go over loops in a bit. So I'll come back to this example and show you how we can loop through and add an address to every single person. Any other questions with this? No. Okay. We're moving on from dictionaries. So if anyone has any questions. But yeah, so people here is a list. It's not an actual dictionary, but it's a list of dictionaries. That's why when I put the dot. So if I do user dot. So a dictionary has these methods. So you have clear, copy, from keys. Get is pretty good. So you can put the key, which this is the same thing as doing this. So doing the dot get is going to be the same as square brackets. What else? Keys will give you all the keys. So if I do print user.keys, I'm not sure if I think I need those. So the dictionary keys are these. So for user, we have name, age, job, and address. I think there's also a values one. So that will give you all the values without the keys. So it gives us Jeff, 40, Dev, and address. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay.
So when you did the user.key and user.values, it returned it as a tuple?
It returns it as dictionary value, like it has its own like type, I guess. It returns it as a list, but I think
Okay.
it prints it out as like it prints this out, because I know you're able to loop through them. So it is a list. Let me try that. For the values. Yeah, it is a list. Any other questions?
Can you have dictionaries inside of dictionaries?
For sure. So let's say this was jobs. And I wanted to say like internship, and then I can add whatever that person's internship was, and then I can add first job, and then add something for that. So yeah, you can have a dictionary within a dictionary. And if you want to access these things, so if I wanted to access first job, I would nest it the same way. So instead of age, I would say jobs, and then another square bracket, and within jobs, I want to get to first job. Actually, I'm not sure if I can have, no, I think it's fine. It's a string. People, oh, this is the wrong person. Okay. Because this person only has a job, not jobs. Okay. Yeah, this is the job that it printed out. Other questions? No. All right. I'm just gonna demonstrate functions here because that file was getting a little crowded. All right. So for functions, the way you define them is with the DEF like define keyword. So define, let's say, I have an example here. Give me 5. And so this is the syntax. The open close parentheses, here's where you would put your parameters, and then a colon, and then a space. So the only thing about functions is that you have to have everything inside that function indented. Python does not use curly braces to encompass functions and stuff like that. Like functions, for loops, all that stuff. It doesn't use curly braces. It just uses white space indentation. So you put a colon and then enter. It should automatically tab. And if anything is not tabbed, you will get an error automatically. So you'll know. So let's just return 5 here. And then we print 5. That should, I'm running the wrong, what's it called? File. Okay. Python 3 functions. There we go. So we get 5. These are fun. Okay. Yeah. Gabo and Lewis. Either
I was just gonna say, you can't close that function.
I can't what?
You can't close that function.
Close it?
Like, yeah, because like in JavaScript, you got the curly brackets to close
yeah.
it.
So anything that's not indented, that means it's out of that function. So
Oh,
I
okay.
can add as many lines of code here, and as long as it's, yeah, as long as it's not,
As long as,
it uses.
if
Oh, sorry.
it wasn't indented, that's where the function would end, and then anything after that will be
Yeah.
different.
Also, to
Okay.
end the function, you usually have a return. So you're returning something, or you're just doing a return. That will be like the end of your function. Also, there's a keyword called pass. I'm not 100% sure what people use it for. I know it's usually like people put pass to avoid returning anything from a function, just like when they're starting, like they're when they're scaffolding out their code. But I could be wrong about that.
I just keep forgetting to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. Anyway, any other questions?
So are we indenting with tab or with spaces? I keep hearing both.
I think either. Let me see one sec. So instead of I think it, yeah, one tab is 4 spaces, so I think it doesn't care that it's a tab, it just takes it as like, it converts it to empty spaces. Yeah. Unless you wanted to hit space 4 times every time. Tab is just a shortcut. I think actually VS Code or like editors insert white spaces instead of a tab, because an actual tab is like tab character, I think is /T, if I'm not mistaken. A new line character, so like going to the next line, is a /N. These we'll see in like when we were looking at the string formatting up here. If I put a /N here, that will here. This is my formatted, and then there's a new line, and then string, and then /g. This is sometimes helpful, and then it adds a tab here. Okay. That's all I wanted to show for this one.
Thank you.
Oh. So yeah, this is just simplest function. Let's say I want to make a function that adds 1. So define add 1, and it will send in a number, and then we will return n plus 1. And here we can print it, and oops, add 1. And let's say we'll send in 4. Actually, we can just call another function in this and say 5. So this should print out 6, hopefully. Let me just clear this actually. Okay. Oops. There we go. Okay, so it gave me 6. So does anyone not understand what's happening here? Raise your hand and I can.
I have a question about, so JavaScript talked a lot about helper functions. And that was challenging for me to get my head around. Either how are they different between JavaScript and here, or can you spend a little bit more time describing the utility of helper functions, how and why they're used?
Yeah, so helper functions are like a programming wide paradigm. I think that's the right word. So people use it. It's just a type of a function. Helper functions typically are for like smaller computations that are used a lot. So a lot of helper functions I would see, like if you're building a sorting algorithm, so you have your main sorting functions and stuff like that. A typical helper function would be finding the minimum in a list, so the minimum value in a list. So that could be a helper function. So helper function is also like what you define it to be. So you can have, you don't have to call it a helper function. As long as it's helping you, it's a helper function. But typically they're like smaller pieces of code that make your life easier because you don't have to like keep repeating the same few code blocks, which is something pretty common. Like when you're writing your code, you want to lessen the amount of code that's actually or lessen the amount of repeated code. So if you see something showing up more than once or twice, then you would want to put it into its own separate function and just call it from wherever you're trying to do.
So then might one function have numerous helper functions one level below that? So you got a helper function, let's say complete a purchase, and the complete a purchase is calculate the price, remove it from inventory, and create a shipping order. So that would be 3 helper functions immediately below that one helper function. But then my follow-on question here is there a helper function? What's the likely or possible use of a helper function inside of a helper function inside of a helper function?
That I can see, yeah, that happens. So there's no big difference between like a function and a helper function. It's more of I think like people I actually don't know. I think it's just difference between helper function. This is HTML specific. Um, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, function you write.
So-
Yeah, it makes your code more readable. So if you're saying like the inventory thing, you have like a specific function for adding to orders. That's not really a helper function. That's more of like an actual application function. A helper function, like I said, would be like finding the minimum in a list, or sorting through a list of orders to find a specific one. So you can have like a parameter and it like returns a specific thing. So it's just little functions that are used in multiple places in your code, and you can't name them specifically for one function, for one application, because it's used in different ways in different places. But yeah, it's when you're coding, you typically want to have small many functions. Functions should be single use, so, or not single use, single function. Like they should do pretty much one basic thing. And if you see yourself doing multiple things in that one function, that's kind of a flag to like start taking out a different function out of that. And just so it makes it more bite-sized, more easier to read, easier to debug, also easier to add to and edit later on.
So if this isn't appropriate for this stage in our learning, but you know, when we look at a software application, if we look at a long expanse of code to complete something, is the work we'll be doing an assembly of functions only? Where do we start learning about how to assemble these things? And so it strikes me that part of it can be JavaScript, part can be Python, and can you have Python inside of JavaScript and JavaScript inside of Python?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes if you're like so like Django, the framework, parts of it is written in Python, and then it also has connections that allow you to write templates in HTML, and add CSS and stuff like that, and it connects them all. So like in one file, you're not going to see multiple languages, except for the languages that are specifically like two languages kind of like mushed together, but they're their own new language. So yeah, you will learn it. Yeah, we'll get to that part. It'll all come together once we dive more into the frameworks and stuff like that. Any other questions? Okay. So I just realized that it's 10:30, so let's take a break. We'll take a 15-minute break. We'll come back at 10:45 and we'll continue our lesson.